All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Andy. How are you?
Thank you, good.
All right, good.
Let's start off with the approval of council minutes from May 29, 2018.
I'll move to approve those.
Second it.
We've got a first and second. Any discussion?
Present.
Got to start there, good call. Roll call.
Let's start with roll call, Vicki.
Councilmember Bozak.
Here.
Councilmember Rivas.
You got me too.
Here.
Councilmember Conover. Present. Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Jessen.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
And Councilmember Witt.
I am, for the most part, here.
7 present.
All right, thank you, Vicki. Now back to the approval of minutes.
My motion stands.
Same here.
Okay, we got a first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Ms. Vicki, can we start with our first reading, please?
Yes, notice to taxpayers of proposed additional appropriations. Notice is hereby given the taxpayers of Porter County, Indiana, that the proper legal officers of Porter County will meet in the Porter County Government Administration Building located 155 Indiana Avenue, Valparaiso, Indiana, on June 26 at 5:30 p.m. to consider the following additional appropriations in excess of the county budget for the year 2018, and to transact any other further goods and services which might come before the council. General fund, sheriff, equipment, $60,000, ITS, travel, $500, Superior Court 3, uniforms and clothing, $500, highway fund, 1176, overtime, $50,000, by 2 minutes, $62,587. Public defender supplemental fund, $1,200, legal services, $15,000. Surveyor's perpetuation fund, 1202, motor vehicle, $35,000, county user fee fund, 2504, training and education, $20,000, drug task force fund, 4010, data processing, $5,000, sheriff DEA proceeds fund, 8118, equipment, $174,000, court interpreter grant fund, 9108, interpreter, $1,594.64. Taxpayers appearing at such meeting shall have a right to be heard thereon. The additional appropriation that's finally made will be referred to the Indiana Department of Local Government Finance, which will make a written determination as to the sufficiency of funds to support the appropriations made within 15 days of receipt of a certified copy of the action taken. Your Banner Carter, Porter County, published June 15, 2018.
Thank you, Vicki.
Good job, Vicki. Good job.
All right, so first up this evening, we have the commissioners, the CCD fund, looking for a transfer.
I'm going to make a motion on both those transfers.
We have a first and second. Any further discussion? Any questions for Scott on it?
This had to do with some postage funds and things of that nature, is that what I'm understanding?
On the second transfer, that is postage. Some of that was related to the election. Some of that was related to the flooding in South County.
Okay.
Some of it was also related to the commissioner certificate sale, where we notified the adjacent property owners that the property was available in an attempt to increase traffic at the sale.
Our work comp is up $55,000 because of the building purchase already?
No, I mean, it's actually going to be down. The work comp wasn't running year to year. It was running, I believe, April to April.
Yeah.
And so when we made the change from a fully insured policy into a partially self-insured policy, this $449,117 is what we need to deposit basically with a third-party payer, as those claims may or may not be processed. That money is not gone. That money is still ours to be utilized, and then will either be returned or credited towards next year's. But the $55,000 was paying the first few months of the old work comp policy. That's why that line item was a little weak.
How much are we responsible for now with the new policy?
I could get you the exact number, but we have a level of
We have a stock
reinsurance. So,
Hey, Scott, how much of the postage was due to the election-related mailings?
I could get you a breakdown.
Was it
I mean,
significant?
I think that was significant, that dealing with the notifying the different precincts of any poll changes. Then that's kind of an up and down issue of whether or not the actual polling location changes. And then also, it was a significant portion was notifying the adjacent property owners of the certificate sale. Basically trying to get those back on the rolls.
Will we have the same issue in the general election for mailing? We're going to need additional money for that too, or is this going to cover it?
I don't think we will. Again, the issue comes down to how much those polling places do or don't move, and those automatic mailers to go out to notify everyone. So I believe we crafted this in such a way to not have to come back for postage.
Why wasn't this coming out of the election board? Why didn't
Because the commissioners pay for all the postage, for everyone, clerks, everyone, everybody.
election-related stuff, so, gotcha.
It is coded, so we can get somewhat of a breakdown. The machine itself is coded by department, so we can get a little bit of a breakdown, but at the end of the day, that's what it was used for.
Anyone else have any further questions, comments? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye, and this is for both transfers.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next up, we have the public defenders.
I'll make a motion on that supplemental fund, additional $50,000.
Second.
Third.
Yeah, first, second, and third, is there any further discussion or any questions?
Hey, Ken, do we have any, like, as we sit here today, are we fully staffed with public defenders?
We are, and this is, as a reminder, this has been an odd year, but this is for outside counsel if there's a conflict or an outside appeal. We usually haven't spent anywhere near the budget item, but for several years, so, but it does come out of the supplemental fund and not the general fund.
Any further questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, roll call, please, Ms. Vicki.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Whitten.
Yes.
And Councilmember Bozak.
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you. Always a
Good
pleasure.
evening. Next up, we've got General Courts, Roger Bradford.
I'll make a motion on this $1,594.64 additional grant money.
Is there any other questions or comments in regards to this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson. Councilmember Whitten.
Yes.
Councilmember Bozak.
Yes.
And Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
7-0.
All right, next up, we have the Superior Court, Judge Trent.
I'll make a motion on the additional and the two transfers.
Second.
We had a first and second. Any questions or comments? Now, they did contact me, and they kind of updated me on this. They're looking to get a new robe, obviously, for Judge Trent, and then pay the rest of what was due for the liability insurance. So it's pretty basic. I don't know if anyone had any questions on that. No comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please, Vicki.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson. Yes. Councilmember Whitten.
Yes.
Councilmember Bozak.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
And Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicki. Next to the Highway Department, we've got the Motor Vehicle Fund.
I'm going to make a motion to approve both additionals.
Second.
Okay, we got a first and second.
What's in that fund, Vicki?
Current balance is $1,600,886,440.
What do we start the year with?
Okay, just under a million, $907,320.
All right. Mr. Sexton, how you doing this evening?
Good, Mr. Bozak.
Congratulations on your new appointment.
So you're the new highway guy, huh? You have a new assistant, too?
Yeah, Jim
Yeah.
I'd like him to come up with
Come
you.
join us. Introduce yourself.
And I'm Rich Sexton, for anybody who doesn't know me, so.
Well, I was getting up and I heard the motions that Mr. Whitten threw out, and I was like, why? And,
They come quick with Dan.
So this, we have overtime, this is from the snow plowing and salting?
Yes, sir.
What months was that? Was that? we're sitting here in
Would have been
June.
back in March. We, how about I just, I had a copy so you guys can see it. I'll just make it nice and easy. It's, showing we know you got 50,000 back in March. We had, snow. Storms, I can't give you an exact date because this is my 6th day, so.
I get it, yeah. I get it.
This was kind of left over, going over the books.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I gave you 5 days to get it together.
We're going to get out the department in 5 days?
Yeah. 43 employees, we got it down already, we're good. So,
Those are my questions.
Anyone else have any further questions?
Not with this one.
Okay. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Witten?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozak?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
And Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
7-0.
Anything else going on you guys got to tell us about? I'm going to-
Paving, a lot of road work right now. We're doing chip and seal, we're right in the middle of that, and right now we're paving Smoke Road, 250 West, and Burdick Road.
End of the week.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to ask. So Andy, is Andy still around?
Yes, sir, he's down at, he's working the Hebron shop now.
So, talking about the work you're doing on the roads, and I talked to Andy briefly about this. How many miles are we doing this year compared to last year? And, you know, what money do we have compared to last year? I mean, are we spending the same? Because Andy indicated to me we're doing less.
We are doing a little less, I want to say, I don't have an exact total on, right now, but I want to say it's around 65 miles. I think last year we did around 80. So,
Well, I would like you to dig into that a little bit and see if what we can do.
We're starting to. We're going to start using the PASER program, which is the road rating system. We're going to start using traffic counts to justify and help us justify the reason for asphalt, chip and seal, crack seal, and all the alternatives, the single seals on the roads. We're trying to get it narrowed down. We have already set goals for how many miles we want to do next year, I think. We got it narrowed down to how much we want to do, and we just got to incorporate all the options that we have with paving and chip seal, and like I said, so we're trying to get it, we're going to start taking in that direction.
Have we not been using that system? I've heard us talk about that for a long time now.
Not completely?
Not completely, no.
So we could be using it better.
Yes, it'll be used better. It'll be definitely based off of factual information versus just, that looks like a good one type. I don't know how else to put that, so.
We were using the "that looks like a good one" system?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but I mean, like, you kind of just, you send the foreman out and they go over the roads and they inspect them and.
So traffic counts will be fed into the system?
Yeah.
I know you guys have those out already.
Yeah,
I've seen them on
yeah.
the roads.
Yeah, she's doing a good job with those. She's got a bunch of traffic counts. And we've got to start using that stuff. Crack seal can make a world of difference in roads, and we started that with Andy, and we plan to keep doing many miles of crack seal to help get the actual miles up. We got 815, but asphalt road only lasts maybe 15 years on a good year. Tells you how often we need to come back and do every road, all 800 miles,
Are you converting any roads to gravel or doing anything like that?
No.
And understanding you're brand new in the position, so I understand that completely. With the 65 miles this year, knowing that we did 80 miles last year, is that intentional, or is that a budgetary issue, or why is it so much less?
It's a budget issue with the CCMG last year. That was where that kind of played a big factor in the miles this year versus last year.
Right.
That's my understanding. Like I said, we're working on understanding it much better, but that's my understanding of why the difference.
Right. Is there a listing of the roads that are to be done this year to get to that 65 miles?
We do have a list. I can.
They can use for that to join and have her disseminate it to everybody here?
We
That'd be great.
we can
just
do
so we
that.
know.
Yeah, and please include us if you guys get a plan for next year.
Yep, thank you.
And we've, in the past, supplemented things with our major moves money. Vicki, how much do we have? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Let's look in the lows.
I don't think we're quite ready to tap the major moves here, are we?
No, I'm just curious as to, we're doing less, what's the reason? I mean, what's in here? Do we need to be doing more this year? Is it too late?
The balance is down to $309,900.
Wow.
So there's nothing in there?
But remember, that was transferred, the three-ish was transferred over to the community crossing grant program.
Yeah, we're
For that.
actually meeting with Vicki on Thursday to kind of go over the budget and see if there's areas we can streamline it, if you want to say that, to get more into the paving and try and get where we were last year. We don't know if it's possible, but
Are you bringing your council liaison involved in that at all?
hopefully after we get some numbers, we can, then, I think it's Mrs. Graham and Mr. Larson.
Right.
Then once we get the numbers that we think we have, and verifying with the auditor, definitely fill you in.
Yeah, work
Very
with them,
good.
and they'll filter it to us, too. Any further questions, comments? Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations.
Good seeing you again,
Yes.
Jim.
Good
Welcome,
luck.
Jim.
Welcome, guys, both of you.
And next up, we have the ITS.
I'll make a motion on the $500 money for travel.
Second.
I have a motion, first and second. Any questions, comments, discussion?
Where they go?
Hearing none, roll call, please, Vicki.
Councilmember Larson.
Yes.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
Councilmember Bozak.
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
And Councilmember Jeff.
Yes.
7-0.
Okay, motion carries. Next up, we have EMA.
I'll make a motion on the two transfers, $1,500 and $290.
Second.
First and second, any questions, comments, discussion? Okay, hearing none.
I have one question. How much is left in the siren maintenance fund?
You're looking for the appropriation in the,
Well, how many sirens? Did the one siren, I think we had one siren that was kind of questionable last year. Is it all the things working now?
We just replaced batteries in 4 sirens, and we have 2 more that we want to work on. Actually, what happened was, once we opened them up, we saw that they were malfunctioning because the computer system tells us that they misfire, or they're not communicating. Actually, the batteries had ruptured inside the box. So we replaced those, we had to clean it all out, and then we're ordering, takes 4 batteries for each of the sirens. We'll be replacing the other 2 hopefully in the next month.
Do you guys have a preventative maintenance plan going forward on that?
Yeah.
What happens right now is our own volunteers are doing it, so there's no labor, so it's just on that. And yes, actually what we're doing, in the past there has not been. It was kind of when we had a problem, we went out and looked at it. Our new deputy director is putting together a program to where at some frequency we're going out and actually looking, because we don't want to wait till there's a problem. So, exactly.
Is that an acid-filled battery, or do you guys go?
It's acid, yes, sir.
So Vicki, am I reading this correctly, that there's $22,000 roughly unexpended?
yes.
Thank you.
How many sirens do we have?
78.
And are you saying that some of them are not currently working?
Oh, they're all-
No, they're all working, but we have experienced some of the communications where it starts to tell us that there's something potentially going wrong with them. And so what we try to do is not wait till it doesn't fire. But twice a day, the system pings every siren, and then it will tell us if it's reading properly or not. And if it's not, we know there could be a problem, we'll go out.
But all 78 currently work?
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you.
Okay, any further questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of both transfers, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you very much. Have a good evening. Next up, we have our surveyor looking to replace a vehicle that is more than 17 years old, $35,000 from the motor vehicle.
I'll make a motion that we pass the $35,000 for our surveyor to get a new truck or
Second.
vehicle.
We got a first and second. All right, any questions or comments? Vicki, what's in that fund, the surveyor's perpetuation fund?
The cash balance is $98,875.
What are you getting?
Pardon?
What kind of vehicle are you getting?
I haven't decided yet. I'm looking for a good price, good return. So I'm very open-minded, but first I want to...
Four-wheel drive?
Madeline, ready.
Do you guys
Yes.
need four-wheel drive? Thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Witten.
Yes.
Councilmember Bozak.
Yes.
Councilmember
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
And Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Thank you, have a good evening. Next up, we have Dan's favorite, the Memorial Opera House.
Right, the show must go on.
Come join us.
I'll make a motion on both of the transfers.
Second.
Grant fund.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any questions,
Big
comments?
fashion show coming up, huh, man?
July 12th.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
Who's emceeing that thing?
I believe you are.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, how about that?
That'll be a real stitch.
I was gonna come, too.
You really couldn't find anybody else?
Well, we're featuring local lawyers, so.
That's right. I could pretend to be a lawyer.
I'm emceeing, I'm not modeling. I'm emceeing.
That'd be worth a ticket.
Have you sold any tickets?
We actually have.
That's right.
We have, only 120 available, so.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
And Dan bought 100.
Enjoy it if you guys like to go.
All right, does anyone have any questions about the transfers? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
So how's that, the ticket sales for Legally Blonde, man?
We are at about 65% right now, and we open in 2.5 weeks, so we're on our way to a sellout with that. And
That's after this show, right?
Correct.
Well, we're
So
soft
we'll-
opening, we're soft opening the night of the show.
Right, exactly. The 12th is the soft open and preview for less fortunate audiences as well, so.
You're not in that, are you?
I'm not in that one.
He's
But I don't know if you knew, I was in the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
I was the wizard?
I saw it on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Used to be, Dan, used to be. Guess what, used to be don't make honey anymore, does it?
Oh, I knew that was coming.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, department. Get the hook. That was rough, man.
He's auditioning for a comedy show.
Is this thing on?
Okay, next up, we have Development and Stormwater Management. And we have the Planning Commission looking to move.
Wow.
I'm going to make a motion on the 2 transfers for Plan Commission, the 2 transfers for Kimbridge, and the 3 transfers for Stormwater.
Second.
First and second, any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thanks, Bob.
Mr. Sheriff.
Liability.
That seems strange to me, too, but it must be.
How you doing this evening?
Good. I'm going to make a motion on the additional from Sheriff's General Fund, $60,000 to equipment, the DEA Proceeds Fund, the $174,000, the County User Fee Fund of $20,000, and the Drug Task Force additional of $5,000.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Sheriff, can you kind of tell us what's going on?
Regarding what, life in general or the wizard?
Just in general.
Well, the $60,000 this is a big deal. The commissioners, we've been working really good with, for a long time, with the commissioners on our body cameras and our car cameras. Ordinances have been written, we've got our policies in place, and the one thing that obviously was the stumbling block was a permanent funding source, so that's what this is. But you won't, even though we put it in here, you won't pay for it until 2020. But we're getting a $500,000, approximately a $500 system for every officer on the road and every squad car. And we just found out that in October, they're going to, for a nominal fee, increase up per car, it will have a license plate reader on it. A couple of years ago, Dan, you probably remember this, we tested one out, and they were like $25,000 a piece. But it's phenomenal technology that can actually just get the plate numbers, driving, car station in a stationary position. I mean, we can check every car coming into the fair, and which we will.
Is it using more than just the dash cameras or other cameras on the sides and stuff? Or
there's a camera in the front and a camera in the back, and there's a camera on the, but you know, from the standpoint of officer safety, domestic violence cases, which we've talked about months ago, it's just going to be a tremendous
aid for us. Everything, you know, we worked out the policy of, you know, who can, the press, what do we give the press, what do we give the public? That's all, a lot of it's governed by statute, and how much we can charge, which is also governed by statute. We'll charge the Post a certain amount, we'll charge the Times a certain amount.
Can you tell us who will get the higher fee?
What is that fee that we will be paying in 2020? When you say it's...
$60,000.
But you've worked all that out with the prosecutors and the
Yes.
commissioners,
Yes.
all the legalities of all that
Yes.
stuff.
Now, when we first talked about this some time ago, there was some discussion that maybe you might have, maybe in 2020, you might not need that $60,000. You might have raised.
It's, you know, it's possible. I mean, it depends on what's coming in our seizure
Right.
money. But to have, the commissioners obviously wanted a permanent funding source, so if they make, you know, they pull the trigger on this. So we're waiting. I mean, we've got money does come in. Obviously, we've got over about $300,000 in there right now.
Right.
So
What's the timeline for getting all the officers equipped, all the cars done?
we are going to call them tomorrow and order it, and they said as soon as we order it, they'll be right out here and start working on it.
Awesome.
With the license plate readers, is
Yep.
there any privacy concerns as far as locating, like, are you gathering information of where normal citizens are?
No, it's just
Just
plate.
reading it?
I mean, there's no expectation of privacy of a plate. And
No,
that's
I was just
basically-
curious if there
Yeah,
was.
that's all basically what it will do, is if you're wanted, or if the car's stolen,
Right.
it will immediately hit.
Thank you.
That's right.
So this $60,000 is for the purchase of the upfront equipment?
No,
Because
it's the third year of the contract. There's a 5-year contract. And
I'm
then,
just wondering, Sheriff, I don't mean to cut you off, why, I mean, you're saying we don't have to pay till the third year, but so why are we doing an additional out of general fund in the first year?
well, because the commissioners wanted a permanent funding source, so you would approve that if we didn't get the money, it would be coming in.
So I anticipated some discussion along that lines when we do our budgets, whether we need to carve that aside.
Is there going to be an increase with the license plate readers? Is it a large increase? Because
They were
with
talk-
that 60,000 number.
They were
potentially
talking
going
about $20 a car
Oh, geez.
per month, which really is not.
You seem pretty concerned about that license plate.
I just wanted to make sure that the 60,000 doesn't become 100,000 in 3 years, you know, because of that.
We can run
So
that plate
was
now.
the reason for-
Well, I know if my police hat's back on, I'm thinking about running his plate, man.
So you can run my plate.
So the $60,000 will go over there, and that'll be the line item we're going to keep for this.
2020, right. For maintenance agreements, after the third year, they replace all the cameras. Any upgrades, that automatically goes. It's like anything in technology, when you buy something, you have one thing they don't talk to you about in the small lines is that you have a maintenance agreement, and you're going to be, in anything you buy, and that's what this is.
I'd like to commend you on working the deal out with the commissioners, because I know that was no easy task. And also, is there additional storage? I know is it unlimited?
No.
Dave, or- So there's some fee that goes along with the
No,
storage?
that's included.
So it's also included. Okay, very good.
And there's no charge, like if you want to bring something back or go through it, it's on cloud, or what is it?
That's on the cloud.
Okay.
But I will say that they have been it's been a long process, and, I mean, they never said that they were against it, they just made us jump through a few hoops, but I think it was well-deserved. I think, I'm really comfortable. I mean, I wish I would have had it a year ago, but I think we're in a lot better shape than we were a year ago, so.
Do these cameras provide live feed for like 911?
Yes.
So that can trigger that, so if you got an officer on foot chasing somebody,
Yes.
that 911 could
If
be
your
watching.
camera's on, I could be home watching what you're watching.
I think that's a big safety feature for you.
Also, the ordinance we had rewritten for the money coming in for that is going to help pay for the equipment. Like if we break a camera, you know, in fighting or something, that will help replace that camera. So we'll get a line item for equipment in that one also.
Just part of the vest, or just hang on there type of camera?
No, they're within that.
No, this is a different model. It has, actually, we're going to have have new uniforms, outer carriers we're going to, but it's going to be Class A, and the camera actually looks like this, so it's an iPhone. and it goes into a sleeve. So Valparaiso went with the same system. When they knew we were going to this system, they went to it, and they, of course, they got it before we did, but they have, which is nice about them having it, we'll sign an MOU between departments, and we can exchange information too, with us in the city of Valpo. So it's, from an officer safety standpoint, it's just a tremendous thing for us.
Is that camera cellular based, or is it connecting to the car, so you have to be so close to the car?
It goes to the car and then goes out.
So if the officer gets too far from the car, you're not going to get that live?
Yes.
What triggers the camera to start on the body?
You can trigger it, if they take the gun out of the holster, it triggers it.
Wow.
There's a lot of safety features on it. And we got to go through all that on when we're going to use it and when we're not going to, when we turn it on and off. But they have a policy, too, that South Bend went with this a couple of years ago. South Bend has the same system. Lafayette has the same system. So West Lafayette, and we're really excited. And all our guys want it, too, and that's important for you to know.
Yeah, 'cause there's extra training that goes along with that.
Yes. Yep. There's a lot of training, and that's included in the price.
Well, excellent due diligence.
Anyone else have any further questions or comments? Okay, Vicki, roll call, please.
Councilmember Bozak?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes.
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
And Councilmember Beck?
Yes.
Hey, bring them next meeting, let's see them.
Okay.
Sheriff, Councilman Bozak drives an Expedition. I would like you to run his license plate, because he's really worried about
I don't think
that.
you'll find me, it doesn't say anything on the side like my name. So do you need us to do something on this police retirement plan then? Didn't say one need with all your questions,
I didn't
Chris,
know
here.
Oh.
Well, it says he's got a presentation for us, right? Oh, it just says presented.
I brought it, we'll load it in, shouldn't take but 45 minutes or so.
No, thank
I find
You
that
can do that with the
highly-
newspaper.
I find that highly unlikely.
I'm kidding, of course.
All right, what do
Any
you got left?
questions? We delivered the packages in advance. Any changes to any of the plan documents require basically everyone's approval. You put those notes in there. So the changes being made are, after 15 years, a decision was made, we've shopped it probably every 5 years, to change the trustee. And you have all that information. To do that, the trust documents change. And so I believe you have copies of them. We included the entire trust document. And if you like, we'll walk through it, but you'll see the third paragraph gives the name of the new trustee, and 2 paragraphs below there, it names the old one and names the new one as the successor trustee. Other than that, the documents don't change. I did notice they did a couple updates, and there's maybe 2 paragraphs difference between the retirement trust and the benefit plan trust. Just as you probably haven't seen these documents in years, right?
First time I
Gone through
saw
the
them.
other plans, but if there's any questions about that, please feel free to ask. I'm familiar with them.
So you need our approval on these, you need our approval on these.
Approval and
Unchanged.
signatures and all the other
Yeah,
signatures
right.
are
So I'll
out.
make a motion to approve these changes.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second, is this a roll call, or?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Vicki, can you roll call, please, or any discussion, further discussion or questions?
You know, on here, it talks about it was based on service and not returns.
Yes.
Any specific service-related issues that precipitated the change, or?
Nothing to be in public. There comes a time when they just weren't paying attention. We've been around a long time. There's a few mistakes. People not get checks, and, it's monthly checks that are cut every, it's the same retirees and disabled people and widows. How can there be a problem? There was a tax problem when they reported them incorrect. It's just, was that enough?
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, please, Ms. Vicki.
Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Justin.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson. Yes. Councilmember Whitten.
Yes.
And Councilmember Bowman.
Yes.
7-6.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you, guys.
Great.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Ms. Vicki, on to the second reading, please.
Whereas it has been determined that it's not necessary to appropriate more money than was appropriated in the annual budget, therefore be it ordained to be resolved by the Porter County Council of Porter County, Indiana, that the expenses of the Jackson the following additional sums of money are hereby appropriated for the maintenance of the purposes specified, subject to the laws governing the same. General fund, 1,000, a total of $61,000. Highway fund, 1176. 112,587, public defender supplemental fund, 1,200, 15,000, surveyors professional fund, 502, 35,000, county user fee fund, 20,000, drug task force fund, 4010, 5,000, sheriff CPO proceeds fund, 174,000, court interpreter grant fund, 9108, $1,594. That concludes second reading.
Thank you, Ms. Vicki. If we could, we need a motion for that, or just roll call?
I move to approve.
Second.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Conover.
Yes.
Councilmember Graham.
Yes.
Councilmember Clifton.
Yes.
Councilmember Larson. Councilmember Whitten.
Yes.
Councilmember Bozick.
Yes.
And Councilmember Rivas.
Yes.
7-6.
Next up, we have the attorney report, Mr. Herbert.
Nothing new to report, specifically, other than the hospital trailing liability fund. There's two remaining cases. One, they're expecting to get a trial date on that. The panel was favorable in regards to the hospital, so I don't anticipate anything substantively changing anytime in the next 2-3 months. And the attorneys that are handling it, the outside attorneys, know to keep me posted if anything changes.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Harper?
No, but I mean, we're getting to the other matters that may properly become before the council, so I had something specifically for Harold that I wanted to bring up and chat about with the group and see what direction the group is willing to go with respect to what I would like to ask. So you guys may or may not, I'm suspecting may, have read in the paper that I have had a degree of consternation with respect to our 4D move. And as, just to bring everybody up to speed, I mean, I've said several times, and I can't imagine anybody would disagree with me on this, that things haven't gone exactly the way they're supposed to go. And what I'm talking about is, transparency in government, open communications, and being made abreast of what was going on. And as you know, through this whole discussion about purchasing the old jail back, we talked about the reasons that we needed the old jail, and we were told various reasons, lots of reasons, but one of them was we were going to move the 4D division over. Now, when I asked when that was going to occur, I was given estimations between 90 and 180 days. And I was also told that it's $100,000 a year savings. I didn't come up with those numbers. Those were in response to my questions. So, as you guys now know, as do I, that when the commissioners were talking with the 4D division about moving over, and the 4D division was giving them sizes and numbers of people and all those sorts of things, that when they were going through that whole rigmarole, they got notice from the current landlord, owner of the building, that in fact we are under a lease extension to 2024. Now that caused all of us some degree of surprise, I would say, because that never came up during our discussions about the 4D division moving over, which of course prompted my beginning to ask questions, and I don't know if the rest of you have, maybe, but speaking for myself, I wanted to know what lease extension are we talking about? when in fact, we've all been talking about the 4D division moving over this year. Well, at that time, then, I made a request specific of the Commissioner's office for a copy of the lease extension, and that's when I was given, as you all have, I would suspect, this lease extension that was signed in 2014, carrying the lease out through 2024. Now, I was on the council in 2014, and I got to tell you, we were never told about a lease extension. And let me just tell the rest of you that since you probably weren't here, or some of you weren't here then, in 2012, when the lease came up for increase to the rent, I asked a lot of questions in that meeting, and you're certainly welcome to check the minutes, but about how this lease payment was going up, what was happening here, because all I'd ever seen was this original 1999 or 2000 through 2006 lease. It was then that I learned, in 2012 apparently, that the lease did run through 2006. It had an auto renewal that if we didn't do something apparently at the Commissioner's office in 180 days, it automatically renewed. Well, apparently, the 180 days passed, and nobody at the Commissioner's office did anything about it, except in October of 2007, after the 180 days had run, they signed, or Commissioner Evans signed, an extension then, in 2007, that took the lease from 2012, starting in 2012 extension, out through 2018. Well, that seemed very, very odd to me in 2012, and I asked a lot of questions, as did others on the council, and we were told at that time the lease runs out in 2018. That's just the way it is. Lease extension it was all renewal, that's the way it goes. I voted no to that rent increase because I did not think at that time, and I think, Jeremy, you were along then and voted no as well, and I think even Polaris was on that, voted no. But we asked a lot of questions about that. How did they come up with the rent increase? Where did the numbers come from? Never really got good answers to that. So that was in 2012. Well, then comes 2014, and the prosecutor's office came in front of us in May of 2014. In May. I want you to get the timeline right here. And they were asking for equipment, or desks and stuff, for that office. And I specifically asked, when is this lease running up? Now, this is May of 2014. I specifically asked the prosecutor's office, head of the 4D, when does this lease run out? It's over in 2018 is the answer. That's May. It's over in 2018. All right. Then as a follow-up, that meeting, Councilman Poplar said, now, you sure it's 2018, right? It's not one of those forever leases. And again, the answer was 2018. And then Councilman Rivas asked, so I want to be clear, this is up in 2018. And the answer was, yes, this lease is over in 2018. Now, the oddity about that is that a month prior to that, the Commissioners had extended, by the way of John Evans, the lease to 2024. A month before we asked that question. And 4 months before we asked that question, the prosecutor had signed the lease extension to 2024. So we're asking his 4D supervisor 3 different times in that meeting, when does this lease run out? And 3 different times, to absolute certainty, the answer was 2018. Unbeknownst to her, apparently, and any of us, obviously, they extended it to 2024, and then it was new. And the reason we didn't know was because it was not on any agendas, and it was not advertised. They did it at the Commissioners' meeting, and brought it up, extended it, and that was the end. And nobody told this body about doing that. But yet we're sitting here now today, flash forward, the current Commissioners clearly had no clue about the lease extension, and the county attorney had no clue about the lease extension. And we're apparently stuck to 2024. Now, on top of that, I'm being told that there is a tax exemption on that building now because of certain square footage is being used for government purposes. But when I look at the tax exemption request, that it doesn't appear, because it's confusing, it doesn't appear that square footage matches that in this lease that I looked at. So we've got this exemption where the square footage doesn't quite match the lease. We've got this weird extension done in 2007, which starts 2012. We've got 4 years before that extension's over, this another extension that nobody knew about, including the person that runs that office, and a week before the commissioners had that meeting, he extended the lease. A week before that, it just came up at the meeting. Before that, the prosecutor already signed the lease extension. Before, it every reached the light of day in a public meeting. Now, if anybody doesn't, and we can all take shelter for whomever we want to, but the fact of the matter is, if we don't see that as a general head scratcher, if we don't have questions about that, if we don't see that as a problem with government transparency, then I don't know what we're doing up here. And I've heard, well, the prosecutor didn't break the law. The prosecutor didn't break the law? That's the standard? I thought the standard was what's best for the taxpayers. So I would like to know a couple of things. Now, I would like to know, A, is that extension enforceable? Is there any mechanism with which we can terminate that extension? And I would like to know, because I know there's some notice requirements for that type of exemption. I know there are. I don't know the specifics of what they did when they got the exemption. But I'd like to know if that's been complied with. Am I wrong, John? I mean, there is an exemption, right? Does anybody have a problem with that?
So I got a question on that. So when you say I'd like to know that, is that, Harold, you're going to look into that? Is that?
That's something that I am more than happy to do, of course.
Whether we can get out of that lease or not?
Whether the extension's enforceable, are there any provisions whereby it can be terminated? Are there any provisions whereby the exemption can be terminated if all provisions were complied with regard to the exemption? It sounds like those are some of the questions you have.
I mean, we're talking about what? I mean, part of the reason we purchased that building was to move some offices over there. So we're talking about, what, $500,000? That's not, for the next 8 or 6 years, roughly, we're paying, over $80,000. That's a lot of money, of taxpayer dollars. But, Scott, I'm interested, because if I remember, you were going to start talking to some different departments about moving over there. Did you ever have any conversation with the prosecutor about moving 40 over there prior to us purchasing that building? Because where I'm going with this is, then he obviously signed that. He had to know that it was going to 2024, and you're having a conversation with him about moving some of his offices over there. Did he indicate at some point in time, well, we can't move that office because I signed an extension in 2014? Did he offer that up to you?
No.
So that really, all right. To me, that's a problem. I mean,
I made the motion that we purchase the old jail with feeling very comfortable. Mr. Biggs came before us and that we were going to be, in the long run, we were going to be saving money. And we would be utilizing it. And the main thing we were going to do was move that 4D court. And
court.
Right.
The
4D office. I'm sorry. And it's just very bothersome that this is, to me, it's just so unethical, and that's in my opinion. And it's not being true not being fair to the taxpayer. This type of business would be occurring in county government right here in Porter County. And I really think that anybody that was involved with that their good conscience would be to, just withdraw from what they're doing. It's just inexplainable to me why these people had to be knowing that this contract existed. And you're saying that was never brought up in any conversations you had.
The way I found out about the extension, I believe Mr. Whitten covered, was when I got the copy forwarded to me of the letter informing of us of our rent increase in 2019. Up to that point in time, I had a handful of conversations with the head of 4D concerning head count and different federal and IRS regulations concerning the new space build-out. So we were heading in that direction, as you would expect, as we were on the eve of purchasing the building itself.
Well, I'll tell you, thank you, but in my opinion, I really think that this is county government at its worst.
So, I've heard a lot about market analysis, recently. There's been a lot of questions, a lot of conversations about the amount of rent we're paying over there, what we should be paying. Is there Scott, are you aware of a policy that the county would have before we go out and pay rent, to do a market analysis? Because when this original contract was what, 1999?
Yes.
So was there a market analysis done? I don't know who was on the Board of Commissioners at that time. Did that Board of Commissioners do a market analysis? And then was, at that point in time, did that Board of Commissioners do it that came up with that price? And then from there on, through every renewal, was there another analysis done to figure out what the going rate is? So is there an original market analysis with the original contract?
No is the answer. I think he's going to look for it.
There is no market analysis when the original lease was done in 1999.
Who signed that lease? Who were the commissioners then?
Brian Jesse, Mr. Biggs, Larry Sheets. Mr. Douglas was the prosecutor.
You're telling me Mr. Biggs signed the contract in 99?
Correct.
And there was no market analysis done where I requested? I guess I don't know the minutes back then. I just don't.
And I've not done a thorough review of the 1999 commissioners' minutes, but that's who signed the original lease.
It's just, I don't know.
And then we had an extension in 7.
This thing's taken a new turn. Every question we ask is taking a new turn. And Sylvia, I think you're right. It's our responsibility as government to be the oversight, to look at things like that, to protect the taxpayer dollars. And I think it appears that some elected officials in the past haven't done their job.
Jeremy, if you don't mind, can I ask a question to Attorney Harper? Is this, the questions that Dan asked you, is it make more sense to have a real estate attorney or someone outside of our body look at this? I don't know what your background is with this kind of stuff.
Well, I certainly, with regard to market analysis questions and whether, standard practice was, I would probably defer to a real estate attorney. But in terms of the questions that Dan was asking about, enforceability of extensions, whether the council has any, I wouldn't call it, for lack of a better phrase, veto authority, or there's any mechanism statutorily whereby the council can step in, I would feel more than comfortable answering those questions. But in terms of issues about market analysis and whether, at that time that was standard of care or what was appropriate, I would defer to a real estate attorney, but otherwise.
If I might, John, we have our assessors here. Do you have, I asked you a while ago to look at market analysis. Do you have an attorney that you use for that sort of stuff? I don't know if that is really our big question here. Come on, guys. I'm more interested in, we've got this extension, this secret extension, and we're all kind of shocked by it, and what can we do about it? That's what I really want to get at.
Well, and that's my point, too, is if there's an opportunity to get out of the lease, is Harold the man to find that? I don't know, and that's what I was trying to ask.
Gotcha.
So Harold, you'll guide us through this as you search. If you think that this board should look at going and hiring a...
I can tell you that I have provisionally reviewed some of the possible statutes that, could apply to a situation like this. And so, I am more than happy to do that. I think that's my responsibility, and I feel comfortable doing that.
So,
All right.
Dan, I mean, those 12 minutes are, so they came for an increase.
Right.
Who presented the increase? The commissioners in 12?
The prosecutor.
The prosecutor.
Yes.
in 12.
You voted no, I voted no, Clark voted no. Everybody else voted yes. Which is fine, I mean, they were comfortable with it. We weren't, we had questions, but, and yes, I know what your next question's going to be. Yes, Jim Biggs voted for it.
And I could honestly say I voted for it, and I was comfortable with it, because I felt that the people elected at that time had people in their departments, everybody was working in good faith. And I never dreamt that there was anything inappropriate.
I'd like to add something to this, though. I'm sitting back here listening to all of us, and evidently I voted to pay this last year because it's a individual line item in that 4D amount. And Vicki said it's about $87,757 per year, so it's a large enough figure that we would all notice that it's there. It would be crazy for us to think that we rent a building with that amount of square footage year by year. So we know we have to be tied into some term on some lease. It's a commercial property. So the build-out, not defending who owns the property or anyone else, the question would be, what is the term for a typical lease and the duration? Is it 10 years? Is it 5 years? Do we have any other similar buildings that we lease like that? And what are those agreements? Because we can't go lease by lease, or year by year on lease. That's not going to happen in a commercial structure. I'm not going to do a build-out for somebody and rent it year by year. I'm going to rent it 5 years, 7 or 10 years to recover my build-out fees. So is this outrageously expensive? And at what point were we not told at all how long our term was going to be as a lease?
Well, see, Jeff, so we talk about the budget, you have to understand that everything we've been told, so you got to understand, in 12, at least the commissioners knew, I had an issue with it. And in 2014, the prosecutor's office told us it expires in 2018, the end. So when we were going through the budget sessions last year, we all thought it expired in 2018. That's what we all thought, because that's what we've been told.
So from 99 to 2018, we figured that was going to be the extent of the structure.
Well, kind of, because, again, the first lease was from 2000 to 2006, and then with an auto renewal, which I don't know what they did in 7, but 180 days came and went, and then they, Mr. Evans signed the extension in 2007 saying, we'll extend it from 12 to 18. So so in 12, we were sitting here finding out that in 7, he'd extended it. So we're sitting in 2012 thinking we're coming to the end of that rainbow.
So it'd be 10 years or roughly 10 or 11
Yeah,
years.
and they were doing them in 7 years, 7 years, 6 years, 6 years, but they were adding the 6 years on with 2 or 4 years left on the contract, so it was throwing it out 8 years. But so we were all thinking this thing expires in 18, as they were, or at least that's what they were saying.
So October 16th, 2007 is the minutes that the commissioners approved, that 2007 extension taking us out to 2018.
And Jeff, to your question, the issue of what's a standard reasonable lease for a property like that is a question I would defer to a real estate professional. But in terms of I'm just letting you know that, and the value, certainly if the body decided they wanted me to look at this, I would probably consult with someone in regards to that issue. But in regards to those issues that Dan is concerned about, I think I can answer those.
I would hope we would look at breaking the lease first and not spending any money on having an appraisal done, because we're already spending a ton of money on the structure.
Agreed.
I think these are good first steps.
I agree 100%.
I think the first step is, let's see what we can do as a fiscal body, and also what you can do for us on the lease agreement.
Agree with that.
The reality of it is, I mean, it might be a good lease, it might be a bad lease, it might be fair. I mean, I don't know. I think the people that were responsible for signing it would have to answer that question after they did their due diligence. The question that we have today really is it a legally binding lease? Because if it's a legally binding lease, regardless if we like it or not, if people in their respective positions sign it, then as a county, my guess would be we'd have to honor it. And so that would be an interesting question to find out if there's an option to somehow, some way get out of it. Most of what I've heard and observed so far leads me to believe that it's probably a legally binding lease. And we'll see. I think part of what we should focus on is what can we do to move forward? I mean, we can talk about what happened back in '99 or 2012 or 2014 or whatever, but where we're at now is find out if it's a legally binding lease, and if it is, then the next question is, okay, what else can we do to minimize the damage or minimize the cost to the county? There's things you can do if you're not happy with a lease as a tenant, or we can say, approach the building owner, talk about a potential lease reduction.
Great.
Ask them whether or not they'd be, based on circumstances, based on timing, would they be interested in reducing the rent? That happens in commercial leases all over the place all the time. Talk about a potential escape option. I'm guessing in the lease there's not an escape.
No.
But would there be a consideration to potentially have one put in after the fact, based on the considerations? The possibility of subletting the property. Have we talked or spent any energy considering that as an option? Because again, if we're stuck with a lease, we've got to do something. So sublet it out if possible. I don't know if the lease allows for that, or if that's something we could do. And I think what's most compelling to me is it's clear that we're not fully aware of what exactly happened, or why we were all under the impression that the lease was different than what we anticipated. And one thing that I would say in a positive or proactive way or approach would be, can we, if we have not already, which in this case it's clear that we didn't do it thoroughly enough, but I think we should be in a position as a county to say, what other leases are there out there that we may or may not be aware of, or may or may not be in agreement with? Are there other financial obligations that we are, as a county, bound to, that we may or may not be aware of, or may or may not agree to? And I think for our benefit, for the commissioner's benefit, and for county government, there needs to be a thorough review of any and all leases, any and all financial obligations that the county is under beyond, let's say, the fiscal year, and make sure that there is full disclosure of any and all of those issues.
Well, along that vein, I must say that when Scott moved from county council attorney to county attorney, he was doing his first daunting task, and I won't speak for you, Scott, was to go through and look at all the existing leases. On behalf of the council, as you may recall, I dug in and started looking at some of these leases. Most glaring, the ones I was concerned about, were the auto renewal leases. Because I thought those always were a flag to me when you're talking about taxpayer money. This, if you don't do anything in 90 days, tag, you're it. I mean, so those caused me a great deal of concern. I've had many meetings with Scott over that. I will tell you that I requested copies of all the leases. I got a banker's box full of them. This lease extension was not in there. So that's kind of interesting when you think about it. And there were quite a few leases that were head scratchers. But I think that they've gone through some pretty painful process to try to weed some of those out, correct?
Correct, and we've also instituted a policy of no auto renewals.
I mean, there was
Wonderful.
we're looking at some of these contracts, frankly,
And
they were a mystery to me. How do we do
I
that?
guess just leases and contracts are two different things.
Right, yes, right.
And you bring up a couple interesting points. The subletting of that property, that's interesting. If we're anywhere near what, the market will take. I mean, if that
Right.
$28 is way above, nobody's going to rent it for that. But, I mean, interesting concept, that Harold can look into also, for sure. And then in terms of a policy, is that something that maybe the commissioners can look at when we're talking about leasing space? I mean, before we go and sign a contract, a lease agreement, are we doing an analysis?
Is it coming before the council?
Doesn't come before the council.
So so here's the thing, from our perspective, when we have questions about, do we have a contract on this, do we have a lease on that, what we do is, we ask the commissioners, hey, do you have a contract on this? Do you have a lease on this? If we want to know what the library's doing, we ask the library board, hey, what's your lease on that building? And they give it to us. That's what we did here. I mean, that's what we did. And with respect to the prosecutor's office, they're the tenant too. We ask them. I mean, that's what we do. That's our due diligence, other than if you want to take and I got to tell you, that banker's box of contracts and leases took a long time to go through. We don't have the time to do that all the time. We have to rely on the office holders, and they have to rely on them having the proper information to give us correct. But when I read Commissioner Good's comment in the paper, I was just as shocked as the rest of them. Guys, if we at least fundamentally agree that government has to function with transparency, and I said that, and I've said that in this meeting many times, and I've also said in this meeting many times, that as elected officials, we are held to a higher standard. It's not our money. It's taxpayer money. So if we take those presumptions as truth, we have to be concerned about how this occurred, and we have to be concerned that it does not occur again, because this is unacceptable by any of our standards, I would think. And this isn't about the landlord, this isn't about the building, I'm not, that's for someone else to decide. I'm wondering why we, as elected officials, were given incorrect information because the people we asked had incorrect information, and back in 2014, literally a month after, we're getting incorrect information. That's a real problem. That's a real problem for me. So I think we do, and I want to know about that exemption. I want to know, because when I look at the statute, it's very convoluted. There are a couple things in there that jump out at me. One is that, political subdivisions, when they enter into a contract, when the executive enters into a contract, it's contingent upon fiscal body appropriation. I want to know if that carries any weight. I want to know with this business of the exemption, there's some notice requirements, and I want to know if we're part of that notice requirement, because we didn't get notice. So these are things I want to know. I want to know, as we're trying to, and you're right, Mike, if we find that the answer is, sorry, guys, it sucks, but you're all in until 2024, then we need to be talking about mitigating. And I think it's all those things you talked about, trying to sublet, if we can, trying to work out some early termination, all that stuff. But before we get to base 2, I want to see how we're looking on base 1.
I guess one final thing is what we're talking about here, what we're going to do. Obviously, Harold's going to do a little research. What are the commissioners doing right now? Regardless, have you guys just decided that we're just moving forward? We didn't have all the information. Are you guys going to, work with Harold to see if there's something in there that can get us out?
I think what he's asking is, are you concerned at all that this occurred? Really?
Really, come on.
Really,
Well, come on. Of course I'm concerned. I stood in front of this council and told you the lease was expiring in 2018.
Yes, you did.
Okay?
And then we,
So, of course I'm concerned. But my preliminary review of it, and of course I'll work with Harold to review it, it's a valid lease. It was passed to the commissioners. It was voted on. It's in the minutes.
I think Mike did make
Now,
some...
can we take a look at the exemption and see whether that was done correctly? Sure.
Good.
Can we look at the subleasing?
Yeah.
Sure. Those are all possibilities. But, I think we all have a level of, a degree of reality and if, in fact, after we make the final review of the contract, if, in fact, it's doesn't have an escape hatch, so to speak, or an appropriation statute escape hatch, then we're dealing with a lease.
Well, I think moving forward, Scott, as a fiscal body, we're going to have to ask for the contract before we approve any additional increment
Yes.
in lease agreements.
And
Yeah.
lease,
So-
yeah.
So I think that, it is partly our fault, evidently, we gave an increase and didn't ask for the contract or weren't provided the contract to see what that extension time was, back whenever that was approved.
Taking their
But
word.
from this day forward, if we're looking at an increase in rent for something, we want to see what the term of that contract is the day we approve it.
I agree with that, except I make one correction. In 2012, when that vote came up, to justify the votes that voted yes, that's when they gave us that one that was signed in '07. So when we were faced with the increase in '12, we did ask for it, and that's when we were shown the contract extension signed in '07 that extended it from 12 to 18. So,
So that increase took place in '07?
yeah, so I don't want you to think that the folks that voted yes didn't, because they did ask, and they were given a copy of the extension through 18.
So the 14 to 24 was made without our knowledge at all, and there was no increase in pay to any of that.
That's correct.
Say that again?
The 14
to the 24, 20, whatever the term.
It would be 19 through 24.
Yeah, it was done in 14, but it extended it out.
There was no increase at that time, so it was not a question as whether it was a contract or not, and
Well,
an increase.
part of the,
We're still, you have to understand that in 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, we're operating on the terms of the lease that we were told that showed expired in 18. So there were some things going on in that lease, but we thought, because that's the last thing we were given, that it expired in 18, so it wouldn't have triggered something odd until right now.
Well, let me ask this question. When this board reviewed it and made the allocation for additional funding for it, an increase, were we not aware of what the increase was, or what the dollar amount we were paying for that lease?
Yeah, I would have known. But, yes, but I'm talking now about this extension.
Okay, so the question is really, part of what we've said is the lease is too high, we're paying too much, and that's blasphemy. Part of it is we're saying that we weren't aware of this extension to 2024, and then those are two separate.
That's correct.
Two separate
Those
topics.
are two separate issues.
So we're really more concerned about this extension that no one was apparently aware of than we are that it's an exorbitant rent amount.
Well, let's start with question one before we have to start. Because if Harold comes back and says, I talked with Scott, by golly, we can get out of this, I don't care what the rent is, we're done. But if he comes back and says, we're stuck, maybe I think we do need to look at what fair rent is. I think we do, because that contract's driven off of CPI. I want to know.
But to be clear, we had, the council had an opportunity to question the dollars of that lease previously.
Of the last lease we knew about,
Okay.
not this extension. And again, I voted no.
All right, I got you.
Councilwoman Conover?
I guess I just wanted to say, we were talking about transparency. Scott had mentioned there's minutes to this lease extension in 2014. The lease extension we didn't know about, but it was all done in a public setting at the commissioners' meeting, in a public format, and approved as such, and then minutes approved.
correct.
Correct. That's the issue I have a problem with. Not that it happened, it was all done in public, but here's an agreement with one arm of our government approving a lease, and now today, we sit here, or last week, we sat here scratching our heads because we didn't know, and I own that, I didn't know either. I thought, 2018, this is done.
Yep.
But, all right, here's a county vendor, or a former county vendor, because this person doesn't own the building anymore either, that enters into this lease, does so in public, and they're being accused of being unethical in the newspaper. I think that sends out a bad message to county vendors. I just do. And this is a complicated issue, and I didn't know. I didn't know.
Well,
You will note, Karen, that my comments very strongly tonight are about government transparency.
Yes.
And this business of, and I'm not saying you said this, but I've heard from others, well, gosh, it was in the minutes of the commissioners meeting in 2014. Okay, first of all, do you know what the library board did last month?
No.
Do you know what the...
Didn't read the
do you know what
minutes.
because the way we find that out is, we ask them. We ask them, hey, what's going on with this? So that's how we get our information. And then we did ask, and in 14, and we got the wrong answer. And that's real problematic. That's a real problem for me. Because that is a direct, deceiving answer. I'm not talking about you're talking about vendors. I'm talking about the people that are elected to look out for the taxpayer dollar, the best interest of the taxpayers. We ask them questions. They know from the 2012 meetings, at least I've got problems with this lease, I got questions, I would know. And you extend this thing for 3 years early, and then don't tell us? I mean, that's a real problem and breakdown with government. And I got to tell you, this is just not the way government's supposed to operate. Would we cut the commissioners, or would we cut the planning commission's budget to $1 and not tell them? Of course we wouldn't. We don't do anything without telling Julie, hey, send that guy a letter. Let him know what happened. Because we want all facets of county government to be truthful, to be honest, to be open in communication, to be transparent, and to work together. That's what we do. Party politics, all that crap, none of that stuff comes into this. We want to all work together. We want to rely on each other to give us open and honest information, and we make decisions as the fiscal body of this county based upon that information we're given. And when that information is an outright mistruth or some sleight of hand, the whole system breaks down. And that's problematic here. And anybody sitting up with it isn't scratching their head and saying, yeah, my gosh, I like that guy, but my God, what was he doing? What do you mean we've been talking about 4D moving over, we've been in the newspaper, we've met with these people, they're giving us head counts and size of desks, and don't do the final drawings on the new building because we've got all this stuff going in, and they signed the contract extension. There's something fundamentally wrong when that happens. And we cannot have that happen again. And you guys know me. I get ticked off when stuff like that happens. I mean, I don't care who's sitting in front of me. That's just not the way government's supposed to operate. So I want to know that question. I think we all want to know that question, and then we can make our decisions based on that.
And in fact, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that Attorney McClure, Attorney Harper, and Madam Auditor go through a thorough review of all leases that may or may not be out there, because I don't know if there's others out there, and the only way we'll know if we dig into it. I'd also like to have them review, and I know we've done a lot of work in terms of minimizing contracts for a year, not renewing contracts and all that, which is great, but I want to do an additional check to make sure that that's still in play, and to make sure there's not, if there's any other obligation that takes us beyond this year, whether it be a lease, or whether it be in a maintenance agreement, whether it be a contract that we've signed somewhere along the way, that it's listed out, and then distributed to the council, distributed to the commissioners, it's available for the public, and so that everybody knows what the county's obligation is beyond the current fiscal year. And then, and in that spirit of transparency, there shouldn't be anything out there that none of us are unaware of. And, I think that would make sense. That helps, I think, move us forward to say that we are going to act in a spirit of transparency. We are going to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then next year or 2 years from now, we're not going to say, well, here's another agreement that we obligated ourselves to, that somehow, some way, not enough of us were aware of it. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a first and second. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to see that line item, just like that lease, is there a way that we can require the department heads to put the maturity date behind that number so that we would know when those, so we're not scratching our heads every year, so say that's 2024, the maturity date's listed, it's 87,000 this year, and we know that it's in effect until 2024.
That's going to be on that list.
You're going to have to jump in here, dude. Yeah, not in the LAO system.
Well, and again, I'm going to, please make it, there is a big difference between leases and contracts.
Lease would be what I.
There is a monumental difference between leases and contracts.
Well, he specified maintenance agreements, too.
Exactly what I'm pointing out. There is a monumental difference between leases and contracts.
This isn't the first time this year, though. Didn't we just have an elevator issue that's not that long ago and some other things, right? We've worked on several things that have been auto renewals. It's killing us.
We got a motion and a second, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion?
And that includes what, you had spoken with Harold before, you're going to look
No, I think
at
that's a separate thing.
Okay.
My motion is moving forward.
Okay.
My biggest fear, and maybe I'm wrong, but if we're talking about all maintenance agreements, and I love the idea, the thought behind it, but what kind of work are we talking about? Because you've got all these departments. Is that information able to be gathered when you're talking about agreements for printers and stuff like that? I'm just curious.
The first question I would have, the department heads who sign or enter into those agreements, are they aware of it?
Right.
That'd be a starting point. And they should be aware of it.
It should be.
And they should be able to memorialize it and present it and say, this is what the county is obligated to beyond 2018.
Scott, what's your frustration over there?
I don't think you have any idea how many contracts you're talking about.
There's a lot.
I don't have a problem doing it. But
How do we eliminate the surprises?
I mean, for instance, the body camera contract, that takes you out for 5 years. That's one contract with the sheriff's department. We have the jail medical contract, that goes out. So, I mean, there are let's put it in a different way. There are very few contracts that aren't obligating us past 2018. Now, they may be 2, 3, 4-year contracts. As far as leases go, maybe one more?
And it's not an auto-renew one?
No. There's one,
don't you
there's
think-
one more department, I believe, that's renting space for the time being.
Health
The
department?
other issue we
Health
could do,
department, Portage.
that we could put a,
I mean, I don't mind, if we want to go department by department and line out the contracts, that's fine. I just want you to understand, this isn't going to be no 30-day turnaround.
Okay, so here's the thing, I agree with, because here's the one thing that we had lots of discussions about from this board, at this board level, when the whole contract question came up some years ago, and Scott, you know, was that the commissioners were surprised by some of the contracts that they saw.
Well, the issue was the auto renewal.
Yeah.
And so the issue of.
And it wasn't, it wasn't just the auto renewal. There were other things, like, we're paying what when they come out and look at what? So, it wasn't just the auto renewal. The commissioners were surprised by some of the contracts, and yeah, the auto renewals kept them alive, but even the commissioners were somewhat shocked by some of these maintenance agreements. So,
I mean, again,
Hold on, how could they be surprised by them?
because they were signed before.
By a previous board of commissioners.
That's correct. Yeah, so this isn't an indictment on anybody sitting in office now. I'm just telling you that there was this tremendous amount of sort of deer in the headlights look when they started peeling back that onion called the maintenance contract.
well, and that's why that was the genesis of developing the facilities.
So why don't we get that list of, why don't we follow up on Mike's motion and get that list of things, and we can go through.
It'll be a big job to oversee, I get it. However, I think we can put the workload on the department heads in terms of gathering it. They're the ones responsible for it. The sheriff ought to be able to articulate what he's committed to beyond this year. The coroner should. Who else is here? The assessor should. The clerk should. Recorder, everybody should be able to say, this is what I've obligated to in my office, in my department. This is what we're obligated to beyond 2018.
Harold,
And it's on a list.
Yeah.
Going to after that?
well, the other question I had was, are we talking about, as Scott had mentioned, leases, contracts, maintenance agreements, and if so, we're talking about all of those, do you want to put a limiter on them, Mike, in terms of amount, or just have?
I think if we're going to take ownership as a board, responsible for county government, and the first step is to be aware of what is out there, because arguably, it's pretty clear we don't know. And I think we would all want to know.
We don't know when the system breaks down on things where the information wasn't passed from.
Okay, and we don't know what that is, so we've got to find out where the breakdown is.
You know,
All right, that sounds great. And I know, Sylvia, you're probably going to say this is like micromanaging, but maybe
Exactly.
maybe we're to the point where that's what we need to do just for a little bit. At least not micromanage to the extent that, let's see what contracts are out there.
I would agree with Dan, that's basically.
I would like to take a look at what's out there, to actually say we are going
Oversight
to,
of what's there.
you know,
We don't get into this again.
We got some of our department heads here right now, why don't we ask them what kind of work it would be involved and what their thoughts are?
You say, boys, think you can handle this? Doable?
How many
Relax, Bob.
do we have between plan, storm, and, just those two off the top?
I've got tons of bridges alone.
Construction
I
contracts?
don't feel,
Construction contracts, now,
I don't think that's what we're talking about entirely.
Well, that's what I'm asking you to do, is to give, because otherwise this, and because to follow what your motion is right now, which I don't care. Anybody on the street can ask for these things. So the fact that you guys want them is no big deal. But if we're gonna do it, then it's gonna literally have to be, line the departments up, and we're gonna go one by one, and then what do you want them in a binder? I mean, what do you want? And again, I don't care. I don't, but the bridge contracts alone are probably.
Why don't you give us a list of the contracts that are out there with the expiration dates on them? Can't you just do that? I mean, you don't have to give us binders of the contracts. We have a question, we'll go over and ask for the contract, man. I mean, it's not that, we're not asking you to tear down forests to build boxes. I know, because I got a banker's box of those things. I know.
And that was just the maintenance contract.
I know.
To clarify, in the motion, is what kind of timeline are we looking for? Are we looking for a month, 2 months? I mean, how soon till we get this info back? Do you need it by the end of the year?
I would say we can definitely more clearly define what it is we're talking about, in deference to what you're saying.
You made the motion, clarify it, man, I'm with you.
I would say we need to, in the spirit of transparency, we absolutely have to identify, and I'd struggle saying significant or say, I'd put a dollar amount on it. It might be easier, and Scott, maybe you can exclude certain things like the bridge contracts that would.
Why don't we start with things like leases, maintenance agreements, let's start with those things.
Yeah, that's probably.
Let's start with those things.
I'd be fine with that.
Leases and maintenance agreements, that will be a relatively short term.
Let's start with that.
And then, okay, so that's my motion with the only addition is, I'd like a list, as part of the motion, a list of what are these other contracts that would be such a monumental task to put it together. Just list them out. It's bridge contracts, it's whatever else in your office, Bob, but just to know what other types of things, just the subject, what types of things are we as a county obligating ourselves to, obligating the taxpayers to, on an ongoing basis, that we may or may not be aware of, or may not want to get more involved with.
So we have a first, amended first, do you amend your second? I will. Hold on, we have a first on the table. Do we have an amended second as well?
Yes, Vicki?
Ms. Vicki.
Vicki and I were just talking back and forth. There's a lot of gateway reporting that the county auditor has to do now, and so do cities and towns. And I'll give the floor to Vicki. A lot of what you're wanting is being provided.
But it can't be that hard, so tell us how it works.
Right. State statute requires that we upload contracts over a cumulative of 50,000 price.
Right.
Cumulative cost onto the gateway, so it is online. Also, we in the auditor's office maintains a list of all contracts that are approved by the commissioners, because, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, commissioners are supposed to approve all contracts.
So perfect, this will be an easy
And
process.
We've tightened up our procedures between my office and the commissioners to make sure that all contracts come to our office.
Yeah, because Vicki, just to turning back the hands of time here a bit, as you may recall, I came to you and said, do you have a copy of this contract? And you said no. And I said, do you have a copy of that contract? You said, no, the commissioner didn't give it to me. Are you comfortable now that you've got all the contracts? We're not talking about these commissioners, we're talking about fire commissioners.
We just found one just a few days ago that we didn't
Man,
have.
this is like an Easter egg hunt.
It is. So we tightened it up, I'm confident in saying from 2015 on, the Commissioner's office and our office have worked together to do that with the new statute requiring our.
Is this new contract you found of importance?
All right, we got a motion, we got an amended motion, an amended second. I mean, so it sounds to me like, from what the auditor is saying, that this should be a fairly easy task. You have the contracts, you're saying that you can confirm with the commissioners, you have them all. Give us a list of the contracts, and let's have a little look-see.
But in terms of expiration dates, that's going to probably fall onto the department heads. For example, I have contracts with the loudspeaker. We don't have an expiration date. It's assumed it's going to go on, but I have to give them a 90-day notice of cancellation.
So it's an auto renew.
So some of those are going to be, because we bought trucks.
That'd be good, we'll be on.
Professional 90-day notice.
Exactly.
All right.
That's how I would tell you.
Well, I think your list would be good to help to remind the department
Let's see
heads.
what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah, this is exciting.
So, are we ready?
Again, what we're doing, just so I'm clear.
Well, it sounds to me like the auditor has a list of all these contracts, well, except she just found it the other day.
2015?
I'd say we've tightened it up since 2016, 2015.
So, and then Gateway has contracts over 50,000 that's readily available for anyone who wants to look at. So, and then I'm assuming
Yeah, but
I want to be clear.
I don't want to just rely on Gateway, because I want to be able to take these things home, take a look at the list, I want to be able to really review them.
So, again, that's why I'm asking for clarification. Leases and maintenance agreements out of the gate?
Let's start with that.
Okay.
Is that your
Yep.
amended motion?
Yes.
That was clarified.
It's a starting point, good start.
Okay. If there's no more discussion, we will call roll call, Vicki. I'm sorry, is there any more discussion? Pardon me. Excuse me.
I do have one question. Are we doing, we're wanting to look at this, but that doesn't mean we're going to do this forever and ever now. If we're just going to be looking at this list, I want to feel as if department heads and people in charge out there, I can trust them, that, this is such poor, what came before us, we became aware that it was not transparent, it was, in my opinion, it was unethical, what was going on. But I want to be able to have faith in the department heads of that, and let them run their department.
Now, to be clear, we're not going to dictate what the contracts are. We're simply, as the body, going to be aware of what it is.
I mean, there's subject to fiscal appropriation anyway, let's take a look and see what's out there.
On the flip side of that, we're elected to watch every dime we spend, and so that it is our responsibility.
I do agree with you. I agree with you on that.
Let's get down, man, let's get down.
Let's take a vote, let's move on.
Any other discussion? All right.
Take a
Ms.
vote.
Vicki, roll call, please.
Councilmember Graham?
Yes?
Councilmember Jessen?
Yes.
Councilmember Larson?
Yes.
Councilmember Whitten?
Yes.
Councilmember Bozak?
Yes.
Councilmember Rivas?
Yes.
And Councilmember Conover?
Yes.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you again.
And one last thing, Karen, I know Karen brought it up, Dan said it, just to echo, this isn't attacking anybody out there that wants to do business with county government. This is a breakdown from within, and what we're doing right now is to make sure that this doesn't happen again. This is a breakdown from past administrations, current people, current elected officials. We weren't told everything, so we got to fix this, so.
Good conversation to have. Okay, next up, under any other matters that must may properly come before the council, we have, yes, we can. Can you give me 1 minute, because we do have, the FEMA gentlemen are here, and they've sat through the whole meeting, we just got to get them out of here. Come right back to you in 1 moment, please. Sir, can you step up? Do you want to kind of present what you wanted to real quick? Be right back, please. And we'll have you come up and introduce yourself.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your patience.
You're very welcome. County politics are quite interesting. So, thank you for having us. My name is Jeremy Rowley. I do the intergovernmental affairs with FEMA. With me, I have Mr. Scott Sanders, who does public information for FEMA, as well as Ms. Janelle Finley, which she does the public information for the Small Business Administration. We are here because we want to give away money. That usually gets a really good response.
Are you from the federal government, and you said you want to give away money?
Your money.
There are stipulations.
And it's your money.
There are. So we are here for the flooding that happened on Valentine's Day to March 5th. And we have a deadline that's approaching of July 5th, which is 9 days from now.
Okay.
And we are asking you as a wonderful body to talk to your constituents to get the word out. That we're here, time limited, and we do not want anyone to miss out on this opportunity.
And you're here in our building here.
Did I
Negative,
see-
negative.
No, you guys are done in this vicinity tomorrow, correct? And
That is correct.
Yeah, then we have till the 5th to apply.
There's 3 ways. You can go to, there's one standing DRC in Rensselaer. You can go online, or you can call us. I believe I've inundated all of your emails with all this information already. Otherwise, I'm going to let Scott take this over right now.
So, Porter County was one of the late add-on counties. Originally, when the declaration was signed by the president, there were 9 counties in Indiana that were eligible for what we call individual assistance. And then June the 6th, there were 13 more counties added on. So Porter County kind of came in late. It's not unusual to have late add-on counties. So we are encouraging people who are eligible to receive federal disaster assistance if they live or work or own a business in Porter County, if they have uninsured or underinsured damage to their primary residence, if they've got documentation of their losses, out-of-pocket expenses. We want them to call the 1-800 number or go online and register. We want to try and capture as many of those people as we can. It's their money. If they want to leave it on the table, that's up to them, but it is their money, and they've got until the 5th of July to try and get signed up.
Do you have a number already of how many have applied from Porter County? Or is there a document?
21.
How many?
21.
21.
Joy, can we ask, for some reason I thought something was on our website, can we ask IT, we put something on our county website to ask our social media person to put on social media, and is this something, Bob, that we can put?
Just so you know, this is, gone to Kurt Ellis, and he has taken responsibility for putting it.
Perfect. Good deal.
Social medias,
Okay.
for county emergency.
Sylvia's been on 105.
As well as a press release, as well as.
All right, thank you.
I was going for, thank you.
We wanted to invite you gentlemen and ladies here tonight to present, so the papers can hear it, and hopefully add it to their story as well. So we appreciate your time today.
Is there anything else you think we're missing, we need to do real fast?
Just get the word out.
Yeah. Is this a case-by-case analysis? Anyone that applies can receive that money that was immediately damaged?
No, not everyone who applies is going to be eligible. We're trying to cast the net as wide as we can, as we like to say. Got to live in the county, your primary residence, you've got damage that's either uninsured or underinsured, documentation of your damages. If the FEMA grants can't help you either repair or replace your home, it could be that the Small Business Administration, they offer disaster assistance loans to individuals as well, long-term, low-interest loans. But we want to try and make sure that we don't leave anybody uninformed that there is a help available.
And I'd like to mention one thing that Scott did not bring out. Our agency, we handle long-term recovery, because when FEMA refer you, after you register with FEMA, and if they don't give you the full assistance you need to get a full recovery, then you refer to SBA, and then we offer those low-interest loans, like for a homeowner or up to a renter, up to $200,000 with the low interest rate of that 1.8%. And then for businesses, we also offer low-interest loans up to $2 million, so our businesses, small and sized business, with the interest rate is 3.5, but it's also a fixed rate. It's fixed for up to 30 years on those low-interest loans. So you can't beat the assistance. So if you are referred by FEMA to SBA, we say go ahead and put the application in, because then you may be getting other assistance. We can't help you in the loans, then you may be losing out on those other assistance that FEMA may offer.
If you know anybody looking for some old 4D prosecutor space, let us know.
That's a different disaster.
Well, thank you guys, and thank you guys for your patience.
Very well.
Thank you very much. Thank you
I'm
very
sorry
much.
about that. I mean, you can come on down, you guys can stand up. We need you to introduce yourself and your address.
Thanks for the work you do. Thank you very much. Thank you.
One second.
I'll
Signature.
put them out in the front.
Thank you for your patience, sorry about that.
They're all in the front.
Your microphone.
Right over here, Pam.
Or you can just come up here real fast. One of them might
I
be.
just have a quick question.
Okay. We just got to record it.
My name is Sam Rurick, I live in Chesterton. And I understand that you had a motion just now to look at contracts and leases, that it's going to be done, correct? But I want to make sure that the original discussion where Mr. Harper was going to look at that lease.
Yeah, that's happening too.
Yeah.
Was that part of it?
No, that's not a motion, it's just happening because he's
It's
our
going to-
attorney.
it is
We've
going to
instructed
occur.
him to do that.
Because I feel that this was a real black eye to Porter County government, a real black eye.
Yep.
And anybody who in some way puts it under the rug or minimizes it, it's not right. It was not transparent. I'm absolutely shocked that our Porter County was this underhanded. It's a real disservice to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay, next up on the agenda, we wanted to review the budget meeting schedule. I don't know if you guys had a chance to go over that, it's in your packet. We set some days, everyone okay with them, any issues?
Great.
No problems? Do we need a motion, or we can just roll it? Joy, we're good to go. Would you let everyone know? The final dates, these are good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get to it, man.
And lastly, the July meeting, we're looking for a change from the 24th to the 31st. Our auditor will not be in town and will not be able to, she's attending an auditor's conference, I believe. Vicki, whatever it is.
They don't care, I'm okay with moving.
So is everyone okay with moving the meeting? Okay.
Go with it.
I'm just looking for a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
Unless anyone else.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Have a good evening.